Hello, I'm just about to strip the granulator down to sharpen the blades, and I've had requests for people to see the granulator in more detail. Before I take it to pieces, I just want to show you this chute. This is quite critical with granulating copper. Now, the problem when I first got this granulator, inside the chute it had kind of steps that went up, and what it did was it stopped the copper from shooting back up the chute. It would shoot so far, hit the step and fall back down. The steps further up, and basically what happened was the copper would settle on this slope until it got heavier and heavier and heavier, and it would fall down, cause like an avalanche of copper. And when it all hits the blades at the same time as they're spinning around this way and shooting even more copper back up, it would jam the machine, blow the fuse. So I had to modify it slightly, and that's what these lines are. I was trying to judge what to do. I ended up putting a sheet of steel inside to bypass the steps and allow the copper to shoot back up but fall straight back down, because you need a constant flow of copper. You can't have the copper all falling down at the same time, because it compresses, and the density of the copper, you might think it's just copper wire, big blades can chop it up, but when it builds up together and it compresses, it's very dense and it can jam the machine, blow the fuse. Be surprised how many 13 amp fuses I've changed over the years. So now I'm going to just take the chute off first and show you a bit more detail inside the machine. I'll get back to you when I've got the camera set up. Okay, the chute's off. Now I'm going to take the screen off. Just take it out. The beauty with buying a granulator instead of making your own, it's quite simple. It's as easy as that. And this is the screen from my last experiment, which is a 1.5mm screen, and that exposes the inside of the granulator. Which I'll try and show you on the underneath side. There are the blades. Makes the granulator look very simple. They spin that way around. Right, let's just have a look at the side to show you how simple it is. Just that little bit. Right, I'm going to set the camera up again. So this is filming from the top of the granulator, showing you the blades. As you can see, they need sharpening. Or maybe you can't see, but they do need sharpening. I've undone all the bolts previously because they're quite hard to take undone. That's one blade, one of the spinning blades. That's what happens when you get metal inside your granulator. You can see the two chunks out of it. So these are the spinning blades. You can't get much simpler really, but the design is quite good of the granulator. It's made by Rapid Granulators, this one, which is a good company. Hang on, I'm undoing that too far. I've got 6 of these blades to take out and sharpen. That's a bit better condition. As you can see, they're staggered. So even though I've got a big powerful motor and it's geared down, this staggering allows it just to chop one side first and then the other side after. It's gives it more chance of chopping thicker clumps of granules. Now this is the fixed blade. There's one fixed blade at the front and one at the back. I've slackened them off already, but there's quite a bit of copper bunged in the holes and what have you. These bolts have to come all the way out. They're not fitted into slots. They actually, well, this front one's not fitted into a slot. It's actually a full piece that comes off. Right, to get the fixed blade out, this should just lift off. And that's what clamps it in. That's not the blade. That's just the clamp. It's quite a bit of use. The blade is in here. It slides backwards and forwards. That's where you get your adjustment from. And that's the fixed blade, the full width. Pretty simple, this back blade, this front blade's pretty simple. If you're thinking about making your own granulator, this is the way I'd do it. Just clamp them in. The spinning blades fit in slots. If you can see that. It's a slot and it doesn't have the clamp that's removed. You just, those two slots, sides of the slots just clamp together. This, if you're making a granulator yourself, this is a hard part to replicate. That's the beauty of getting a decent granulator. It'll make much difference over time granulating copper. And the back blade is pretty hard to see, but I will try and show you if I can turn the blades better. Probably not. You can just about see where the bolt hole is down there to unclamp it, but I'll show you when I take it out. There's no need to undo these all the way. This back one is fitting with like a wedge. It clamps into a slot. I'll take it out and show you. That's the wedge. And that's the blade. That's quite sharp, quite good condition, but it still needs a little tickle up with a grinder. And that's the basic position that it fits into the slot. The bolts tighten it from the back, pull the wedge in because it's wedge shaped, and that holds it in place. That's complicated. That I would just use a clamp if I was doing a granulator. Make it a lot simpler. So that's the granulator blades. It's quite simple really. Simple tool. You've got a spindle that has a bearing on that side, one behind this casing, and this is the most complicated part to replicate. But not if you've got some machine tools and a bit of engineering experience. It can be done. You can simplify it a bit. Right, next time switch the camera and I'm going to show you the pulley system and the drive belt. So this is the drive belt and the pulleys. You can clearly see the output from the motor, and you can tell that it's geared down quite a lot. That gives it more torque and more power to chop the copper, and less speed, which helps, I think. You don't want a high revving system when you're granulating copper. You want a lot of torque, a lot of power, because the copper builds up and it can jam your granulator, as I've already said. It's one of my biggest problems that I've had, and to get this professionally made granulator has made a big difference. It would have been a lot harder if I didn't know what RPMs to run it at or whatever. The small pulley has got 14 teeth on it, and the larger pulley, which is chunky, you could say that's a flywheel as well as a pulley. It's got a good bit of metal in it, it's quite heavy, so you'd say that adds more consistent power to the granulator if you're overfilling it or whatever. Trying to put too much copper through, that will keep it going. That's got 72 teeth, so you can work out the ratio, 72 teeth to 14 teeth. I'm not as clever as that. I could do it if I did a bit of research, but I haven't bothered. That's the drive system. I'm going to turn it round and show you the motor, and hopefully you can pick up the ID tag on it to see how many RPM it is and whatever else. This is the motor, single phase. I bought it in the UK, that's where I live, by a company called Machine Mart, which you've probably got something similar wherever you live in the world. They call it a 4-pole motor. It allows it to rev slower than a normal one, and the RPM is 1420. That's the important part, to get the speed and the gearing right. So originally there was a 3-phase motor on it, but like I say, this is a do-it-yourself channel, and I granulate copper in my garage, mostly from Carlun's. Okay, that's a tour of the granulator. One of the most common questions I get asked on YouTube is, can I use something else than a granulator to chop wire? Well, yes you can, and I've tried a few things myself, but there's nothing beats a granulator. I've had people ask if I can use a wood chipper. Oh yeah, you can chop anything with a wood chipper, but can you granulate it to a specific size where you can get good separation, and it'd be very hard. You'd have to screen it every time you put it through, or you'd have to fix a screen to your machine before you put it through. But the best screen I found in scrap is from a microwave door. They're normally 1.5 in the UK. So yeah, if you've got a separate way of chopping your copper up and you want to screen it for car looms especially, because it's very thin copper, multi-strand copper, this is a perfect way to do it. You've got a ready-made screen in the microwave door. Just strip the door down, and or you can use this as a template to make a thicker screen if you're going to mount it to a machine and have it running permanently. So that's a good way of doing it. Nothing beats a granulator. One of the common machines is a hammer mill that people ask if they can use, probably because they've seen them on YouTube. But if you cut a piece of wire with a pair of scissors, it's just a little test that you can do on yourself. If you cut a piece of wire with a pair of scissors, it'll chop straight through. If you hit it with a hammer, then it will take a long time to break it up. So that's just like a little demonstration, the way I think of it anyway. Not that I've ever used a hammer mill or a wood chipper. And I'm just going to show you what I tried first. This is a wood planer, which looks really good. It's got a spinning blade. You could mount some fixed blades if you wanted, and it looks like it's going to work, which it could do if you feed it through slowly enough. But if you open one of these up and you look at the drive belt on this little thing, it's probably about half an inch, a centimetre wide, whereas the drive belt on my granulator is a lot thicker. It gives you an idea of the amount of power that you need to granulate copper and granulate a lot of it. So what I did with this is I put the hole in this table and I put the wood planer underneath, pretty much like this, strapped it up and made myself a little setup. It didn't take long before the wood planer went up in smoke. Just not powerful enough for me. It can be done, and you might get a stronger wood planer and try it, but that was the best idea that I could come up with at the time. Now I decided to go and buy a granulator. It cost me £850 to buy it from a plastics factory from eBay, which was a good deal. I'm not saying you're going to find them all day long, but if you wait long enough you can come up with a granulator. If you want to make your own, which some people have said on eBay that they want to make their own, they've got the skill to do it, and the machines, like a milling machine and a lathe, it's easily enough done. I always wanted to make a shredder myself, so I've got a couple of ideas. I just want to show you, give you a few ideas how to make a granulator. It's pretty much the same thing. This is the motor from the granulator that came with it. It's a 3-phase one, and I've always saved it, but I think I'm going to end up scrapping it. So what you've got here is quite a big motor. It's not too big. You'll find them in the scrap if you look hard enough, or you can buy a second-hand one that wants rebuilding. You've got a good set of bearings, a nice chunky spindle that can take the power, what you need, and if you open it up, it's possible that you could cut a hole in the top, one in the bottom, fabricate yourself a little setup inside to put your blades, and it could work if you've got a bit of know-how and a welder and a grinder and what have you. Or you could just make a square box out of steel and use just the end plates and the bearings and the shaft, which you could fabricate something from that, and then build your chutes and your screen around that system, so that could work. But the other idea I've got, I'll show you. I'll just go and get the stuff. So this is my next idea, either a granulator or a shredder or whatever. This is a car hub, front hub. It's one of the most common pieces of scrap that you can find, but it's got a nice big bearing inside it. That's the bit where the wheel studs go in, and that's where it bolts to the carrier, the hub carrier. Now you could bolt that to your framework, well, your casing for your granulator or your hammer mill or whatever, and have this free spinning. Obviously you'd have one at the other side, and that could be the part where your blades fit in. And my idea is to get a piece of steel stock, cut it to what, how wide do you want your blades. If you're a DIY like me, you don't need it too wide, and weld them in or fasten them somehow. You could even put a bracket and bolt them in if you wanted, or both. And then you clamp your blades to this piece and you fabricate yourself a nice strong barrel, probably about 3 of these struts, or maybe even 4 with blades on. That would give you the advantage from like something like a wood plane that's got a solid barrel. As your blades come round and the copper that hasn't gone through your screen at the bottom, as the blades come round, it will fire it back up the chute and get back in the queue for some with the other copper to be chopped again as it falls down the chute. That's quite a good idea, I think, although I might say myself, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I've got some engineering background, but not in granulators. So it can be done. You can make your own, and you can do it quite cheaply. I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else, except for you can't beat buying a granulator second-hand one on eBay or wherever you find one, striking a deal, because you get all that design quality that's associated with a proper manufacturer. It makes it a lot more efficient. But I did start trying to do my own system. I didn't want to spend the money on a big granulator. It's hard to find one that you can run in your garage, but everything's worth thinking about, and it can be done if you want it. Okay, that's end of the video, I think. Can't think of anything else. If you like me sharing my knowledge and my experience, and you've got any other suggestions, maybe you're an engineer and you've got some better ideas, comment below. And if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that, because I'm sharing my knowledge and what have you. Thank you very much for watching.